The Velkari fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system like a dark tide. 300 warships, each the size of a city, their weapons capable of cracking planets. At their head was the command dreadnought, twice the size of the Eternal Horizon, bristling with enough firepower to sterilize a star system. On the bridge of the command ship, Velkari Admiral Kesh studied the tactical displays with satisfaction. Earth's defenses were pathetic. A few dozen primitive vessels clustered around Jupiter. The infamous Eternal Horizon sat in the middle, old and alone. This would be quick. Open a channel, Kesh ordered. I want the human admiral to know who is about to kill him. The transmission reached the Eternal Horizon. Taemin's face appeared on Kesh's screen, older but unmistakable. The admiral who had frustrated the Velkari Empire for 12 years. The human who had almost won. Admiral Taemin, 5 centuries ago you fled. You hid like a coward while your species was reduced to primitives. Today the Velkari Empire finishes what it started. Taemin's expression was calm. Admiral Kesh, I remember you. You lost 3 fleets to my tactics. Tell me, does the scar on your pride still hurt? Kesh's face darkened with rage. Today you die, and I will personally watch Earth burn. Then come and try, Taemin said quietly. We're waiting. The channel closed. Kesh ordered the fleet forward at maximum speed. They would crush the human ships in minutes, then move on to Earth. This rebellion would end today. The Velkari fleet advanced in their standard siege formation, confident and powerful. They passed the orbit of Saturn. Then Uranus. They were 2 hours from Jupiter when the first swarm ships appeared. Thousands of small vessels, barely bigger than fighters, came screaming out of hiding. They had no crews, just engines and explosives and simple AI guidance systems. The Velkari point defense systems opened fire, destroying hundreds. But there were thousands more. The swarm ships crashed into the Velkari formation like a wave. Explosions rippled through the fleet. Shields flickered and failed. Smaller vessels were destroyed outright. Larger ships took damage, their perfect formation breaking apart. On the Eternal Horizon, Jiwoo watched her tactical displays with fierce satisfaction. First wave successful. Enemy casualties, 37 ships destroyed, 62 damaged. They're reforming. Launch second wave, Taemin ordered. Let's make them angry. Another 1,000 swarm ships appeared. The Velkari were ready this time. Their point defense systems adjusted for the threat. They destroyed more of the incoming vessels. But not all. Never all. Humanity had built these ships simple and cheap, designed to overwhelm defenses through sheer numbers. By the time the second wave finished, the Velkari had lost 80 ships total. Kesh was furious. These primitive humans were using tactics from 500 years ago and they were working. All ships maximum speed. Break through their swarm and destroy that command ship. I want Taemin's head. The Velkari fleet surged forward, burning toward Jupiter at full power. They entered the gas giant's gravity well, closing on the Allied forces. The real battle was about to begin. Here they come, Jiwoo said quietly. Allied ships, this is the Eternal Horizon. You know the plan. Make every shot count. The 45 alien warships spread out in a defensive formation around Jupiter, Keth ships with their precision weapons. Valorian cruisers built for speed. Silicate dreadnoughts, slow but nearly indestructible. And in the center, Earth's 50 ships, primitive but crewed by humans who refused to give up. The Velkari fleet opened fire. Space lit up with plasma bolts and energy beams. The Allied ships returned fire, their weapons far inferior but their tactics brilliant. They moved in patterns that Velkari sensors couldn't predict, attacking from unexpected angles, using Jupiter's magnetosphere to disrupt enemy targeting. Kyung-soo led Earth's fighter squadrons in a desperate attack run. 200 small craft against an Empire's fleet. It should have been suicide. But Kyung-soo flew like a man possessed, his buried memories fully awakened. He wove through enemy fire, his weapons finding weak points in Velkari shields. Behind him, Earth's pilots followed, their fear overwhelmed by duty. They had trained for only 6 weeks, but they fought like veterans. Because humanity's strength had never been superior technology. It was adaptation, innovation, the refusal to accept defeat. One of Kyung-soo's wingmen took a direct hit. The pilot ejected, but his fighter exploded in a ball of fire. Kyung-soo felt rage surge through him. These were his people, his planet. The Velkari had no right to take them. All fighters follow my lead. Attack pattern Delta 7. It was a maneuver from 500 years ago, designed to confuse enemy point defense systems. The fighters split into 3 groups, attacking from different vectors simultaneously. The Valkyrie ships had to choose which group to target, leaving the others free to strike. 3 Valkyrie cruisers exploded under the coordinated assault. But the cost was high. Earth lost 30 fighters in that single attack run. 30 young pilots who had been living normal lives 6 weeks ago. On the eternal horizon, HFY worked frantically in medical bay. The wounded came in steady streams. Humans, Keth, Valorians, all bleeding the same red blood, all dying in the same darkness of space. She moved between beds with exhausted efficiency, saving who she could, comforting those she couldn't. A young human pilot was brought in, his body burned badly. He couldn't have been more than 20 years old. HFY worked on him for 30 minutes before his heart finally stopped. She stood over his body, trembling with exhaustion and grief. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry we brought you into this war." But there was no time for grief. More wounded arrived. Always more wounded. On the bridge, Taman watched the battle unfold with cold calculation. The Allied forces were fighting brilliantly, but it wasn't enough. They had destroyed 90 Valkyrie ships total, but 210 remained, and Earth's forces were being ground down. They had lost 25 ships already. The Keth were down to 15 vessels. The Valorians had only 8 left, Admiral. Jiwoo said quietly. "We're losing." "I know." Taemin pulled up a classified display, one only he had access to. The Chronos device, the experimental technology that had allowed consciousness transfer 500 years ago. It had one other function, one he had hoped never to use. Donghyun's voice came over the comm. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy buildup in the Valkyrie command ship. They're preparing some kind of superweapon. If they fire that thing at Earth, he didn't need to finish." Taemin understood. The Valkyrie weren't just here to win. They were here to make an example, to show the galaxy what happened to species that resisted. Taemin made his decision. "All Allied ships, this is Admiral Taemin. Fall back to Earth orbit. Protect the planet. The Eternal Horizon will handle the remaining fleet." "Admiral, that's suicide," Captain Vec protested. "You can't fight 200 ships alone." "I'm not planning to fight them. I'm planning to trap them. Eternal Horizon crew, report to the bridge. We have one last decision to make." Jiwoo, Haiwan, Donghyun, and the other awakened crew members gathered around Taemin. He showed them the Chronos device specifications. "We can create a temporal loop, lock ourselves and the Valkyrie fleet in a bubble of repeating time. They'll be trapped, unable to escape, unable to threaten Earth, but we'll be trapped too. Forever experiencing this one moment, this one instant, unable to die or leave." The crew stared at the display in horror. An eternal prison. A moment frozen in time, experienced over and over without end. "There has to be another way," Haewon said. "There isn't. The Valkyrie are minutes from firing their superweapon. If they succeed, Earth dies. Billions of people. Everything we've fought for." Taemin looked at each of them. "You've all been given second chances at life. You've lived normally, loved, experienced peace. I can't ask you to give that up. Anyone who wants to leave, take an escape pod now." No shame, no judgment, no one moved. Jiwoo stepped forward. "We knew this might happen. When we agreed to wake up to fight this war again, we knew the cost." She smiled sadly. "I got 38 good years. That's more than most soldiers get. If I have to spend eternity frozen to protect Earth, I choose that." "I agree," Donghyun said quietly. "I've lived 2 lives. Both times I served this ship and this crew. I'll serve until the end and beyond." Haewon nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I became a doctor to save lives. If this saves billions, then it's worth any price." One by one, the others agreed. They had been given impossible gifts. Now it was time to pay for them. Taemin felt emotion threaten to overwhelm him. These people, his crew, his friends. "Thank you. All of you. Now let's show the Valkyrie why they should have stayed away from Earth." The Eternal Horizon charged directly at the Valkyrie command fleet. Every weapon firing. Every shield at maximum. Donghyun pushed the engines beyond safe limits, coaxing power from systems that shouldn't have any left to give. Taemin opened a final channel to Earth. His face appeared on every screen across the planet. Billions watched as their admiral spoke his last words. "People of Earth, 500 years ago we made humanity small to keep it safe. Today you proved you were always meant to be giants. You fought an empire with courage and honor. The stars are yours again. Don't waste it. Don't forget what you're capable of. Be worthy of the sacrifice being made today. Taemin stood before the United Earth Council, broadcast across every screen on the planet. Billions of people watched as he told them the truth. Their history was a lie. 500 years ago, humanity had ruled 47 star systems. They had fought a war against an alien empire. They had lost everything to save Earth, and now the enemy was coming back. The reaction was chaos. Governments panicked. Religious leaders called it blasphemy. Scientists demanded proof. But Taemin had proof. The eternal horizon hung in orbit where everyone could see it. The Keth and Valorian and Silicate ships were visible on every telescope. And the Velkari scout ship circled Earth like a vulture, a constant reminder of the threat. Some people refused to believe. They said it was a hoax, a trick, a mass hallucination. But others believed, and those people felt something humanity hadn't felt in a long time. They felt angry. Someone had taken their history. Someone had reduced them from galactic powers to primitive planet dwellers. The Velkari had done this. And the Velkari were coming to finish the job. The HFY spirit, dormant for 5 centuries, began to wake up. Earth's military leaders met with Taemin aboard the Eternal Horizon. He stood before generals and admirals who technically outranked him, but everyone in the room knew the truth. This man had commanded fleets when their ancestors were barely learning to fly. "We have 6 weeks," Taemin said without preamble. "The Velkari fleet has 300 warships. Earth has 50 ships that wouldn't last 5 minutes against a single Velkari cruiser. If we fight them in open space, we lose. So we don't fight them in open space." He pulled up a tactical display of the solar system. "We use Jupiter. The Velkari will come in fast and confident. They think we're weak. We let them think that. We draw them into Jupiter's gravity well, into the magnetosphere. Then we hit them with everything we have." An Earth admiral frowned. "You're talking about using human ships as bait. Suicide runs. I'm talking about using small, fast vessels loaded with explosives. No crew, automated, thousands of them. We call them swarm ships. The Velkari have seen them before. They know how dangerous they can be. We don't have thousands of ships," another general said. "Then we build them. Every factory on Earth and Mars working day and night. These don't need to be pretty. They just need engines and bombs. Humanity built an interstellar empire once. We can build simple missiles." Haewon spoke up from her position by the medical console. "What about casualties? When the Velkari attack, people will die." "Yes," Taemin said quietly. "They will, but fewer than if we do nothing. The Velkari aren't here to negotiate. They're here to finish what they started 500 years ago. Our choice is fight or die." The room was silent. Finally, one of the generals stood. He was an old man with scars from Earth's old wars. "My grandfather told me stories his grandfather told him. Stories about the sky battles and the people who fought them. I thought they were fairy tales. But looking at you at that ship outside, I think maybe they were memories." He looked around the room. "I say we fight. Better to die on our feet than on our knees." One by one, the others agreed. Earth would fight. The next weeks were a blur of activity. Factories that had made cars and computers retooled to make weapons. Scientists studied the technology from the Eternal Horizon, learning in days what should have taken years. Jiwoo trained Earth's best pilots, teaching them tactics 500 years old. Among the pilots was a young man named Kyung-soo. He was only 23, fresh from flight school, but Jiwoo noticed him immediately. He flew like he had been born in a cockpit. He understood combat maneuvers instinctively. When she taught him an attack pattern, he would do it perfectly the first time, then suggest improvements. After one training session, Jiwoo called him to her office. "Where did you learn to fly like that?" Kyung-soo shrugged. "I don't know, Commander. It just feels natural. Like I've done it before," he frowned. "Sometimes I have dreams. I'm flying in battles, but the ships are different. More advanced. I wake up remembering maneuvers that don't make sense." Jiwoo felt her heart skip. "Kyung-soo, I need you to come with me. There's someone you need to meet." She brought him to the Eternal Horizon. The ship scanned him immediately. Its voice held surprise. Genetic signature recognized. Captain Kyung-soo, fighter race. Service record, 214 confirmed kills. Status, deceased, final battle 523 years ago. Kyung-soo staggered. "That's impossible. I'm 23 years old. Your body is," Jiwoo said gently, "but your consciousness is much older. You were one of us. You died in the final battle and were reborn just like we were, but your awakening is incomplete. You have the skills, but not the memories. Over the next days, Jiwoo worked with Kyung-soo, helping him access his buried memories. It was harder for him than it had been for the others. He had died violently, his fighter exploding around him. The trauma had locked the memories deeper, but slowly they came back. He remembered being the best pilot in the fleet. He remembered the respect of his squadrons, the fear of the enemy. He remembered his final moments, knowing he was going to die but taking 3 enemy ships with him. "I was good," he said one night, looking at his service record. "I was really good." "You still are," Jiwoo said. "Earth's pilots look up to you. You're going to lead them into battle. Will we win?" Jiwoo didn't lie to him. "I don't know, but we're going to make the Valkyrie pay for every inch of space." Haewon struggled with the morality of what they were doing. In her current life, she was a healer. She had dedicated herself to saving lives. Now she was helping prepare for a battle that would kill thousands, maybe millions. She found Taemin on the bridge late one night staring at Earth on the view screen. "Do we have the right?" she asked quietly. "To drag humanity back into an ancient war? These people didn't choose this. They were living peaceful lives." "The Valkyrie didn't give them a choice," Taemin said. "They're coming whether we fight or not. At least this way humanity has a chance. And if we lose? If we all die? Then at least we died trying. At least we didn't go quietly." He looked at her. "You don't have to fight, Haewon. You can leave. Go back to your research, your peaceful life." "I'll understand." Haewon shook her head. "No. If my crew is fighting, then so am I. I just needed to say out loud that this is hard." "That choosing war, even necessary war, costs something." Taemin nodded. "It costs everything, I know. I've been paying that cost for 500 years. The Eternal Horizon sensors detected more crew members scattered across the solar system. Some awakened easily. Others fought against their buried memories, terrified of who they had been. A few couldn't handle the integration and had to be sedated, their minds broken by trying to hold 2 complete lives at once. Taemin mourned everyone. These were his people, his crew. He had promised them peaceful second lives. Now he was dragging them back into hell. Donghyun worked miracles in engineering. He updated the Eternal Horizon systems with 500 years of technological advancement. He taught Earth's engineers how to build shield generators and plasma weapons. He barely slept, driving himself with the knowledge that every improvement might save lives. Late one night, Taemin found him collapsed over his workstation. "You need to rest." "Can't rest. Too much to do. The ship is old, Admiral. She's strong, but she's old. If we push her too hard in battle, systems will fail. I need to reinforce every critical junction. You're no good to anyone if you collapse from exhaustion." Donghyun looked at him with haunted eyes. "In the final battle 500 years ago, my engines failed at the critical moment. I remember that. I remember you needed the ship to jump, and I couldn't give you the power. People died because I failed. That wasn't your fault. We were outnumbered 20-1. The ship had been in combat for 16 hours straight. You kept her running far longer than should have been possible. This time will be different," Donghyun said firmly. "This time when you need power, I'll have it ready. I won't fail you again." 4 weeks before the Valkyrie fleet's arrival, the Allied forces gathered at Jupiter. 45 alien warships joined by Earth's 50 primitive vessels. Against them would come 300 Valkyrie warships, each more advanced and more powerful. The odds were impossible. But humanity had faced impossible odds before. Taemin called a meeting of all ship commanders. Humans, Keth, Valorians, Silicates, different species but united by the memory of what the Valkyrie had done to them. "They think we're weak," Taemin said. "They think 500 years of hiding has broken us. They're wrong. Humanity doesn't break. We bend, we adapt, we survive. And when someone pushes us too far, we push back." He outlined the battle plan. The swarm ships would strike first, thinning the Valkyrie numbers. The Allied warships would focus fire on the command vessels. The Eternal Horizon would be bait, drawing the Valkyrie into the trap. "We're not trying to win," Taemin said honestly. "Not completely. We're trying to hurt them badly enough that they think twice about coming back. We're buying time for humanity to rebuild, to rearm, to become strong again." "And if we don't survive?" asked Captain Vec of the Keth. Taemin smiled grimly. "Then we make sure they remember us. We make sure the Valkyrie tell stories about the day they came back to Earth and found humans waiting for them with bared teeth." The monastery sat high in the mountains of South Korea, a place of peace and meditation. Dong-hyun had lived there for 8 years, seeking quiet after a life that felt too loud. The other monks thought he was strange. He could fix anything with his hands. He understood machines in a way that seemed almost supernatural. Sometimes he would draw designs in his notebook, complex schematics for devices that shouldn't exist. He always burned the pages afterward, disturbed by knowledge he couldn't explain. He was in the garden when the shadow fell over the monastery. Dong-hyun looked up and saw something impossible. A massive ship, dark and sleek, descending from the clouds. The other monks scattered in fear, but Dong-hyun stood still. He felt no fear, only recognition. The ship landed in the valley below. 2 figures emerged and began climbing the mountain path toward the monastery. Dong-hyun went to meet them. Somehow he knew they were coming for him. Taemin and Jiwoo found him waiting at the monastery gate. The monk looked at them with calm eyes that seemed to see right through them. "Admiral," Dong-hyun said quietly. "Commander, I've been expecting you, though I didn't know it until this moment." Taemin stepped forward. "You remember? Pieces, fragments. For years I've had dreams of machines and engines. I wake up with solutions to engineering problems I shouldn't understand. I know things about technology that doesn't exist in this time." Dong-hyun smiled sadly. "I thought I was going insane. But seeing that ship, it all makes sense now." "We need you," Jiwoo said. "The Valkyrie are coming back. We have maybe 6 weeks?" Dong-hyun nodded like he had expected this too. "Then we have no time to waste. Take me to the ship. My hands remember things my mind has forgotten." The flight to the Eternal Horizons engine room was quiet. Dong-hyun spent the time in meditation, preparing himself. When they arrived, he placed his hands on the main console and closed his eyes. The memories came smoother for him than they had for Jiwoo. Perhaps his years of meditation had prepared him for this moment of integration. "I remember," he said softly. "Chief Engineer Dong-hyun, I kept this ship running through 12 years of war. I performed miracles with spare parts and hope." He opened his eyes and looked at the engine displays. "She's been sleeping for 500 years, but I can wake her up properly." "Give me 6 hours. You have 4, Taemin said. "Then we need to reach Titan. HFY is there and the Valkyrie scout will be in Earth's solar system soon." Dong-hyun's hands were already moving across the controls. "I'll have her singing in 3. They left him there and headed to the bridge. Jiwoo pulled up the tactical displays, showing the scout ship's projected path. "It's not being subtle, Admiral. It's broadcasting images of our ship across all frequencies, offering rewards for information." "They want people to panic," Taemin said. "They want Earth's government to reveal themselves, to show what military assets they have." "We can't let that happen." The ship's alarm sounded. Jiwoo cursed. "Scout ship just accelerated. It'll be in Earth's orbit in 36 hours, not 72. They must have detected our launch." Taemin made a decision. "We can't hide anymore. But we can control what they see. Jiwoo, prepare a holographic projection. I want them to think we're hunting them, not running from them." Jiwoo smiled. It was a classic Taemin maneuver, the kind of tactical trick that had frustrated the Valkyrie for years. On it. 3 hours later, Dong-hyun called from engineering. "Engines at 98%. Weapon systems online. Shields at full strength. She's ready for whatever you need, Admiral." "Good work. Set course for Titan, maximum speed." The Eternal Horizon jumped to faster than light speed, crossing the solar system in hours instead of weeks. They dropped out near Titan Station, a massive research facility orbiting Saturn's largest moon. Jiwoo immediately saw the problem. 3 Valkyrie fighters just appeared on sensors. "They're attacking the station." Taemin leaned forward in his chair. "How many people on that station?" 8,000 researchers and their families. "Then we don't have a choice." "Battle stations." "Jiwoo, target those fighters." "Dong-hyun, give me everything the engines have." "We're going in." The Eternal Horizon roared toward the battle. The Valkyrie fighters were small and fast, tearing into the station's weak shields with plasma weapons. People were dying down there. One of them was HFY, though she didn't know why death suddenly seemed so familiar. HFY worked in the medical research wing. When the alarm started, she thought it was a drill. Then the explosions began. The station shook and people started screaming. HFY's training kicked in immediately. She organized the evacuation, directing people to escape pods with calm efficiency that surprised everyone, including herself. But there weren't enough pods. The station was designed for 8,000 people. but half the evacuation system was already destroyed. They needed more time. Someone had to stay behind and buy them that time. HFY found herself running to the docking bay toward the research shuttles. She had never been a pilot. She was a medical researcher, but her hands knew what to do. She climbed into a shuttle, powered it up, and launched before she could think about what she was doing. The research shuttle wasn't meant for combat. It had no weapons, weak shields, and engines designed for cargo runs, but HFY flew it like a fighter ace, weaving between the Valkyrie attacks, drawing their attention away from the escape pods. She didn't understand how she knew these maneuvers. She just knew. One of the Valkyrie fighters broke off from the station and came after her. HFY pushed the shuttle to its limits, dodging plasma bolts by centimeters. Her mind worked in two layers. The surface layer was terrified, screaming that she was going to die. The deeper layer was calm, calculating angles and vectors, predicting the enemy's moves 3 steps ahead. She was so focused on survival that she didn't notice the massive ship until it filled her view screen. The eternal horizon appeared like a dark angel, its weapons blazing. The Valkyrie fighter that had been chasing her exploded in a ball of fire. The other 2 fighters tried to run, but Jiwoo's targeting was perfect. They died before they could jump to faster-than-light speed. HFY's shuttle drifted, engines damaged from pushing too hard. She was shaking so badly she could barely work the controls. A communication channel opened. A man's voice, calm and authoritative. "Research shuttle, this is the Eternal Horizon. Cut your engines and prepare to be tractored aboard. You're safe now." HFY wanted to ask who they were, where they came from. Instead, she heard herself say, "Acknowledged Eternal Horizon. And thank you for the assist." Why did that phrase feel so natural? Why did the name Eternal Horizon feel like coming home? The great ship pulled her shuttle into its landing bay. HFY stumbled out on shaky legs. 3 people were waiting for her. 2 men and a woman, all looking at her with expressions of relief and recognition. The older man stepped forward. "Dr. HFY, I'm Admiral Taman. We need to talk." The name hit her like a physical blow. Memories exploded in her mind. Not the gentle restoration the others had experienced, but a violent flood. She remembered being Chief Medical Officer HFY. She remembered patching up wounded crew members during endless battles. She remembered the smell of blood and burned flesh. She remembered holding dying soldiers and promising them it would be okay, even when it wouldn't be. She remembered the final battle, the decision to use Protocol Omega. She had been against it. She had argued with Taman, said they had no right to play with consciousness and memory. But in the end, she had agreed. They all had. Better to live new lives than die knowing they had failed. HFY fell to her knees. Taman caught her just as he had caught Jiwoo. "I know it's hard. I'm sorry. But we need you. The station is damaged and there are wounded. We need our doctor." HFY looked up at him with eyes that held 2 lifetimes of experience, the gentle researcher who wanted to heal, and the combat surgeon who had worked in hell. "How many wounded?" 63 critical. 200 moderate." She stood up, pushing aside the confusion and fear. People needed her. That was something both versions of herself could understand. "Show me to medical bay. I'll need supplies, assistance, and coffee." "Lots of coffee," Jiwoo smiled. "That's definitely HFY." Over the next hours, they worked to save the injured from Titan Station. HFY moved through medical bay like she had never left, her hands remembering procedures 500 years old that were still more advanced than current medicine. She saved lives that should have been lost. Between surgeries, Taman briefed her on the situation. The Valkyrie scout ship, the incoming fleet in 6 weeks, the desperate need to prepare Earth for a war it didn't know was coming. "We can't win," HFY said quietly, washing blood from her hands. 300 ships against Earth's 50 primitive vessels? It's suicide. "We can't win by fighting fair," Taman agreed. "But when have we ever fought fair?" "Despite everything," HFY laughed. That was true. Taman's entire reputation had been built on impossible victories won through ridiculous tactics. Donghyun's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors. Multiple ships entering the system. Not Valkyrie signatures." They rushed to the bridge. Jiwoo brought up the tactical display. 3 alien vessels smaller than the Eternal Horizon but clearly warships. The designs were familiar. Jiwoo woke up screaming. Again. The nightmares were getting worse. Every night for the past week she dreamed of explosions and fire. She dreamed of ships tearing apart in the void of space. She dreamed of shouting orders while alarms blared and people died around her. When she woke, her hands would be clenched like she was gripping controls that weren't there. She worked as a cargo pilot on Mars Colony, flying shipments between the surface and the orbital stations. It was boring work, but it paid well and let her fly. Flying was the only thing that made sense to her. Put her in a cockpit and her body just knew what to do. Her instructors had called her a natural. They said she flew like someone with decades of experience even though she was only 28 years old. Her head throbbed as she got ready for work. The headaches were new, starting around the same time as the nightmares. Sometimes she would be in the middle of a cargo run and suddenly know things she shouldn't know. Combat maneuvers, tactical formations, the weak points in ship designs that hadn't been invented yet. She took painkillers and tried to ignore it. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe she needed a vacation. The communication screen in her apartment buzzed. A message marked urgent. Jiwoo opened it and frowned. The sender was listed as Eternal Horizon. She didn't recognize the name. The message was simple. Jiwoo, I need you to trust me. Meet me at Landing Bay 7 in 1 hour. Come alone. Everything you think you know about yourself is wrong. She should have deleted it. Should have reported it as spam. Instead, she found herself getting dressed and heading to Landing Bay 7. The bay was empty when she arrived, except for one man standing near a small shuttle. He was young, maybe in his early 30s, with tired eyes and the look of someone who hadn't slept properly in days. When he saw her, his face showed relief and something else. Recognition. Jiwoo, he said quietly. Thank God. I was worried you wouldn't come. I don't know you, she said, keeping her distance. Who are you?
What do you want?
My name is Taimin, and I know this will sound crazy, but I need you to listen. 3 days ago, I found something in the desert on Earth. A ship. An ancient warship from 500 years ago. When I touched it, everything changed. It knew me. It called me Admiral. Jiwoo's head suddenly exploded with pain. She gasped and grabbed the wall for support. Images flashed through her mind. A man who looked like Taemin, but older, wearing a military uniform. Standing on a bridge, giving orders. And herself, younger and also in uniform, sitting at a tactical console and responding to those orders. What's happening to me? She managed to say through gritted teeth. Taemin moved closer, his voice urgent. Your memories are trying to come back. The ship explained everything. 500 years ago, we were officers in the Terran Defense Force. We fought a war against an alien empire called the Velkari. We lost. Before they could kill us, we used experimental technology to transfer our consciousness into new bodies. We agreed to forget everything and live normal lives. But the technology was designed to reactivate if the Velkari ever came back. That's insane, Jiwoo said, but her voice lacked conviction. The headaches, the nightmares, the impossible knowledge of combat tactics. It all suddenly made a horrible kind of sense. I need you to come with me, Taemin said, back to the ship. When we're together, when we touch, the memory restoration accelerates. I don't understand how it works, but I need my crew. I need my tactical officer. Jiwoo looked at him. Every logical part of her brain said to walk away. This man was clearly disturbed. His story was impossible, but her hands were shaking, and not from fear. From eagerness. Some part of her buried deep wanted to go with him, wanted to sit at that tactical console again. If I come with you and this is all garbage, I'm calling security, she said. Taemin nodded. Fair enough. The flight to Earth took 6 hours. They didn't talk much. Jiwoo kept having flashes of memory that felt real but couldn't be real. She remembered sitting next to Taemin in a cafeteria, both of them exhausted after a 16-hour battle. She remembered laughing at something he said, remembered the weight of friendship built over years of fighting side by side. When they landed in the desert, the Eternal Horizon was waiting. The ship was enormous, its dark hull rising from the sand like a mountain. Taemin led her inside, through corridors that felt familiar even though she had never been here before. They entered the bridge. Jiwoo stopped breathing. She knew this room. She knew exactly where every station was, what every control did. Her feet carried her to a specific console on the left side of the command chair. The tactical station. Her station. Touch it, Taemin said softly. Trust me. Jiwoo placed her hand on the console. It lit up instantly, recognizing her genetic signature just as it had recognized Taemin's. The ship's voice spoke. Welcome back, Commander Jiwoo. Memory restoration at 15%. Physical contact with another restored crew member will accelerate the process. Taemin stepped closer and took her other hand. The moment their skin touched, the dam broke. Memories flooded through Jiwoo like a river. Not the 38 years of her current life, but decades before that. She remembered being Commander Jiwoo, tactical genius, Taemin's best friend and most trusted officer. She remembered battles fought with impossible odds. She remembered the day they realized they couldn't win, the day Taemin made the call to sacrifice the colonies to save Earth. She remembered the final battle, the Valkyrie fleet closing in, the decision to use Protocol Omega, the strange machine that would steal their memories and put their minds into new bodies, scattered across time. She remembered looking at Taemin and asking if he was sure. Remembered him saying they deserved a second chance at life, a chance to be normal people. She remembered dying. Remembered her ship exploding around her in the last desperate minutes of the battle. Remembered darkness and pain and then nothing, and then waking up as a baby on Mars 38 years ago. Growing up with false memories of false parents. Living a life that felt real but was built on a lie. Jiwoo collapsed. Taemin caught her and helped her to the floor. She was crying, but she didn't know if it was from grief or relief. She had 2 complete sets of memories now. 2 complete lives. The woman who flew cargo runs, and the commander who had fought for humanity's survival. I remember, she whispered. I remember everything. The battles. The losses. I remember being your friend. I remember choosing to forget. Taemin held her while she cried. I'm sorry. I know this is hard. It's hard for me too. But we don't have time to process it. The Valkyrie are coming. The ship detected them 3 days ago. We have 6 weeks, maybe less. Jiwoo wiped her eyes and pulled herself together. Even with 2 lifetimes of memories fighting in her head, her training kicked in. How many ships? 300, Taemin said quietly. A full invasion fleet. Jiwoo laughed, but there was no humor in it. 300. And how many ships does Earth have? About 50, all primitive compared to Valkyrie technology. We'd lose in less than an hour. Then we need the rest of the crew, Jiwoo said, standing up. Her legs were shaky, but she forced herself to stay upright. How many have you found? Just you so far. The ship is still scanning for the others. It takes time. As if responding to his words, the ship's voice spoke again. 2 additional crew members located. Haewon, current location, Titan Station. Donghyun, current location, Mountain Monastery, South Korea. Jiwoo moved to her tactical console, her hands flying across the controls like she had never stopped using them. Haewon was our medical chief. Brilliant doctor, saved hundreds of lives. Donghyun was chief engineer. If anyone can get this old ship running at full capacity, it's him. We need to move fast, Taemin said. The Valkyrie aren't going to wait. The ship suddenly blared an alarm. Jiwoo's tactical screen lit up with contacts. Her blood went cold. Admiral, she said, falling back into old habits. We have a problem. Valkyrie scout ship just entered the solar system. It's heading for Earth orbit. ETA 72 hours. Taemin moved to his command chair and sat down. Jiwoo saw the transformation happen. The tired scientist disappeared. In his place was Admiral Taemin, the man who had held off an empire for 12 years. His voice was calm and clear. How long to reach Titan? 18 hours if we push the engines. And the monastery? 20 minutes once we're back in Earth's atmosphere. Taemin nodded. We pick up Donghyun first. We need the ship running at full power before we face that scout. Then we go for Haewon. If the Valkyrie attack Titan, we'll need a doctor. Jiwoo plotted the course, her fingers remembering commands she hadn't used in 5 centuries. Course laid in. Ready to launch on your order, Admiral. Taemin looked at her, and for a moment she saw the weight he carried. The burden of remembering who he was and what he had done. Then he smiled, just a little. It's good to have you back, Commander. It's good to be back, sir. Even if everything is completely insane. The Eternal Horizon's engines rumbled to life. Dirt and sand exploded away as the massive ship lifted into the sky for the first time in 500 years. Inside, 2 people who had been given second chances at normal lives prepared to become soldiers again. The desert sun burned overhead as Taemin wiped sweat from his forehead. He had been digging in the Gobi Desert for 3 weeks now, and his team was getting tired. The other scientists thought he was crazy. They said there was nothing out here except sand and rocks. But Taemin knew better. His equipment had detected something deep underground, something that shouldn't exist. The metal detector in his hand beeped louder as he walked forward. 200 meters below the sand, something massive was waiting. Something made of metal. Something old. His supervisor had told him to stop wasting time and money. The university wanted results, not wild theories about ancient civilizations. But Tai Min couldn't let it go. For months, he had been having strange dreams. Dreams of stars and battles. Dreams of commanding ships in the darkness of space. He would wake up with his heart racing, remembering things that never happened to him. The excavation machines worked day and night. Tai Min barely slept. He ate, his meals standing up, watching the diggers remove ton after ton of sand and rock. His assistant kept asking him what he expected to find. Tai Min didn't have an answer. He just knew he had to keep digging. On the 21st day, they hit something solid. The sound of metal on metal echoed across the desert. The workers stopped their machines and stared. Tai Min's hand shook as he climbed down into the pit. There, beneath 200 meters of earth, was a surface of dark metal. It was smooth and perfect, without any rust or damage. It looked like it had been placed there yesterday, not thousands of years ago. Tai Min reached out slowly. His fingers touched the cool metal surface. The moment his skin made contact, everything changed. Light erupted from the metal. Symbols appeared across the surface, glowing with blue energy. The workers shouted in surprise and backed away. Tai Min couldn't move. He felt frozen in place, his hand stuck to the metal as if magnetized. The symbols shifted and changed. At first they looked like nothing he had ever seen. Then slowly, impossibly, they began to transform into Korean letters. Words formed in front of his eyes. Words that made his blood run cold. Genetic signature recognized. Identity confirmed. Admiral Tai Min. Access granted. A section of the metal slid open with a hiss of air. Ancient lights flickered to life inside, revealing a corridor that stretched into darkness. The air that came out was clean and fresh, as if the space inside had been sealed just moments ago. Tai Min's assistant grabbed his arm. "We should call someone. The military. The government. This is too big for us." But Tai Min was already climbing inside. He couldn't explain why, but he felt pulled forward. This place knew him. It was waiting for him. The corridor was wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side. The walls were covered in panels that lit up as he passed. More symbols appeared, all shifting into Korean as if the ship was learning to communicate with him. Ship. That's what this was. Somehow, buried deep under the desert, there was a ship. He walked for what felt like hours, though his watch said only minutes had passed. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. Tai Min stopped and stared in wonder. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that rose at least 30 meters high. Workstations lined the walls. A large chair sat in the center, facing a massive window that showed only dirt and rock outside. As he stepped toward the chair, lights blazed to life across the entire room. Screens activated. Systems hummed with power. And then a voice spoke, warm and calm, filling the chamber with sound. "Welcome back, Admiral. Reactivation protocols initiated. Time elapsed since last command. 523 years, 4 months, 17 days. Tai Min's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the floor, his mind spinning. "That's impossible," he whispered. "I'm not an admiral. I'm 32 years old. I was born in Seoul. I have parents. I have records. I'm not whoever you think I am." The voice continued as if he hadn't spoken. "Ship status 97% operational. Weapon systems active, life support active, crew complement 1 of 47 present, beginning memory restoration sequence." "Stop," Tai Min said loudly. "I don't need memory restoration, I know who I am." "Negative, Admiral. Your memory was suppressed as part of Protocol Omega. The suppression was designed to be permanent. However, emergency reactivation has been triggered. Your presence is required." Tai Min pulled himself to his feet. He moved to the nearest console and touched it. The screen responded instantly, showing him information in rapid succession: ship schematics, star charts, battle logs, and names. So many names. He saw his own name at the top of a crew list. Admiral Taemin, Fleet Commander, Terran Defense Force. Below his name were dozens of others. Jiwoo, Tactical Officer. Haewon, Medical Chief. Donghyun, Chief Engineer. All Korean names. All listed as crew members of something called the Eternal Horizon. His head began to hurt. Images flashed through his mind. Not memories exactly, but something close. The feeling of sitting in that central chair. The weight of making decisions that affected millions of lives. The exhaustion of fighting a war that couldn't be won. What happened? He asked quietly. 500 years ago. What happened to this ship? To Earth? The ship's voice took on a somber tone. Displaying historical records. The main screen activated, showing space battles on a scale Taemin could barely comprehend. Thousands of ships fighting across entire star systems. Human vessels bearing Earth's symbols fighting against alien craft of strange design. The battles were fierce and brutal, and humanity was losing. The Velkari Dominion, the ship explained. They conquered 47 human colonies in a systematic campaign lasting 12 years. You led the defense, Admiral. You won victories that should have been impossible, but there were too many of them. In the end, you made a choice. The screen showed Earth, blue and beautiful in the darkness. Around it, massive alien ships gathered for a final assault. You ordered the collapse of all wormhole connections to Earth. You stranded millions of humans in distant systems. You condemned them to save the homeworld. Then you and your senior crew activated Protocol Omega. You erased your own memories and transferred your consciousness into new bodies. You became ordinary people, scattered across time, with no knowledge of what you had been. Taemin felt tears on his face. He didn't remember doing these things, but somehow he felt the weight of them anyway. Why? Why hide? Why not keep fighting? Because the Velkari were searching for you specifically, Admiral. Your tactical genius made you their primary target. By erasing yourself, you protected Earth. The Velkari believed you were dead. They left, Earth alone, forcing humanity back to a primitive state but allowing the species to survive. That was the plan. Hide. Wait. Rebuild slowly over centuries. Then why wake me up now? Taemin asked, though part of him already knew the answer. The ship's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Because they're coming back, Admiral. Long range. Sensors detected Velkari signatures at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. They're searching for this ship. They're searching for you. Your crew is scattered across the solar system, living ordinary lives with no memory of who they really are. You have 6 weeks before the Velkari fleet arrives. 6 weeks to find them. 6 weeks to remember how to save humanity again. Taemin looked at the chair in the center of the room. His chair. Even though he didn't remember sitting in it, his body knew the shape of it. His hands knew which controls to reach for. Somewhere, deep inside, buried under 32 years of false memories, Admiral Taemin was still there. Still waiting. He had been an ordinary man when he woke up this morning, a scientist who studied the past. Now he was being told he was humanity's last hope. Again. The desert sun was setting outside, though he couldn't see it from inside the ship. Taemin made his decision. He walked to the chair and sat down. It fit perfectly, like it had been made for his body. Maybe it had been 500 years ago. "Show me where my crew is," he said quietly. "We have work to do."